She was just sound asleep. Weren't you? You were. She's so fussy with her own personal dignity that she's like a human. She won't admit when she's been sleeping. But anyway, hello, BookTube, and welcome to your Daily Penguin. This one's going to be fairly brief. Not from a slighting of the book in question, but just because pretty much everything that's had to be said about it has been said already. We are going through my Penguin Classic wall, and I don't know what we're encountering from day to day. I'm intentionally not looking ahead, so that I don't systematize, so that I don't make a syllabus out of this, which would be my natural inclination. So we're bouncing all around without any rhyme or reason right now. That may change. We may hit a vein or not. But today we're hitting a very recent novel, 50 years old, from 1957. This is Picnic at Hanging Rock by Joan Lindsay, an Australian classic, a weird, intriguing modern-day Gothic story that I've never met an Australian who hadn't read this. It's the story of the Appleyard College for Women. A group goes out from that college one day in 1900 in Australia to have a picnic in the lush Australian countryside, in the area of Hanging Rock. And when they're there, three of the young women decide to go to climb up the rock, to climb up towards the ringing, hot, bright sky in the company of one of their teachers, and they disappear. And it's as simple as that. That is the MacGuffin that is at the center of this whole book, is that those girls disappear. And all that follows, everything that comes from, there's a whole bunch of foreboding leading up to that, but then everything that follows in the novel is just the concentric rings of effect of those young women disappearing. The effects on their families, the effects on the school, the effects on the country. Just that's all it is, and it's never explained. And Joan Lindsay herself got a lot of mileage in her writing career out of the fact that the book is not explained. And plenty of people, amateurs, readers, literary theorists, school children, elementary school teachers, have rushed forward to offer explanations as to what's going on. Was it UFOs? Was there a murder? Were there many murders? Was it all a deception? Was it all an illusion? All kinds of things like that. I had already read this book once, long before Penguin inducted it into the Black Spine Penguin Classic line for America. I had already read it once and really liked it. I really enjoy it. It's more subtle and more multi-layered than it seems on the surface. The surface seems just as simple as the description I just gave. The book is actually, there's a lot more going on. It's very, very good. I read it because every Australian that I talked to had encountered this book in one way or another, by either of the famous movie version or radio dramas or the book itself. Almost every Australian that I talked to had read this for school. And there was always, whenever I talked to those, I used to talk to, back when I worked in a bookstore and always in the literary world, whenever I could find an Australian, either an expat or just someone on vacation, I would take them aside and buttonhole them with a million questions, because I have never been to Australia, and I clearly never will be to Australia. I've never visited this place. I don't know it firsthand. All I know is the stories that the rest of the world tells about it, and the stories that Australians themselves tell about it. I had an old friend who wasn't Australian himself, but he used to live in Australia. And when he would harangue me for never going there, I would ask him, well, what are Australians like? And he used to say, they are less refined and more outspoken than Americans. And I thought, neither of those things is possible, but he assured me it's true. And also everybody talks about how the country itself, the natural history of the country itself, seems made for Steve. Because not only is there an indigenous canine species that lives nowhere else, but also almost all the wildlife seems tailor-made either to scare the daylights out of you. If you've never seen an adult kangaroo, they aren't hippity-hoppity little children's toys. They convey a palpable menace of danger. But it's not just kangaroos, of course. No, that all the rest, all the wildlife, seems designed to kill humans. Whether it's 25-foot long sharks that are everywhere, or every kind of poisonous animal, no matter what it is. Everything seems designed to kill people, and also the country itself does. The admittedly hazy impression that I get for having never been there is that it is a vast island that is ringed all around the outer perimeter by fairly nice seaside places where humans can live, and that ring guards is the circumference of an otherwise blasted and inhospitable place of boiling hot chaparral where humans can't live. The humans do, sheep ranches and whatnot, but where they shouldn't, where they clearly shouldn't, just an arid wasteland. I am probably wrong about that, but I don't know firsthand because I've never been there. But when I talked books, when I talked Australian books with those expat Australians and people who live there who were just vacationing, I got a handful of similar responses. I have never yet spoken to an Australian who actually personally enjoyed the novels of Patrick White. Esteem, yes, but not personally enjoyed. I've never met an Australian who actually enjoyed Patrick White. They were always willing to tell me about thriller writers or literary writers who aren't quite as august as Patrick White. I never heard any personal love of his novels. I know that's probably unfair. I have heard personal love of his novels, but never from Australians. And in addition to that, this book came up every single time, usually in very affectionate terms. This is one of those weird national literary classics that you are forced to have an acquaintance with, but that you don't so much mind being forced to have an acquaintance with it. You don't so much mind. An equivalent, I guess, in America might be Catcher in the Rye, where everybody is forced to have an acquaintance with that book, but most people don't mind it. Most people find it okay as a reading experience. Needless to say, I like this book a lot more than I like Catcher in the Rye. I was very happy to see Penguin do it. They did it in 2017 for the 50th anniversary. They came out with this edition with a cover still from the movie. That is rare enough for a still from a movie. It's actually very nice. It actually makes for a very nice edition. So your Penguin Classic today, of course, is a recommend. I don't know that I'm going to need to recommend it to anyone who's from Australia. I get the impression that everyone who was born in Australia has read this book. I could be wrong about that. Feel free, if you're from Australia, to let me know what your relationship with this book is. With no relationship like that, I have, sadly, no relationship with Australia. I have never been there. I have never done my usual thing of falling in love with a country and then staying for a while. I've done that in well over 24 places, but I've never visited Australia, never lived there, never got to know anyone there, never smooched a dingo, and never will. So I don't know this in situ. I don't know this in its own environment. I'm up to you to tell me that. But in terms of just a reading experience, if you are not Australian and have nothing to do with them, you're still going to enjoy this. It's a very enjoyable book. And that is your Penguin Classic for today. Nice and quick. It's Picnic at Hanging Rock. Who knew what I would encounter, and who knows what we'll encounter tomorrow? We shall see. I don't want to make these particular videos very long because this video is filmed on my old iPhone, which is just fine. I filmed hundreds and hundreds of videos on it, but it has almost no storage. And I don't want to run out of storage in the middle of a video. That happened to me many times back when this was my only iPhone. It actually prompted me to go on the market and get an iPhone 7S specifically because of its enormous amount of storage. And that's the phone that just died on me, the phone that just turned into a fused piece of black plastic. So I'm using this one again, and I'm right back to the same old psychodrama that I used to be experiencing, where I had no idea if I was running out of room. So I'm going to keep this video short, under 10 minutes, and see how much space it takes up. So I will wrap this up for now, and we will do a Penguin tomorrow, and we'll see what we get. I won't be more Australian fiction. I don't think I have any more Australian fiction in Penguin Black Spine paperback classics. So that's probably it. So I'll wrap this up, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.